This is Arkansas Roots on KASU at 91.9 FM and streaming live around the world at kasu.org. I'm Marty Scarborough. As always, happy to share with you a wide variety of Arkansas music from the past and the present. And today we're focusing in on music from the present with an artist who currently makes his home in North Carolina that has some Arkansas connections. This young man has just released his debut album. My guest today on Arkansas Roots is Matthew Adams. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Hey, Marty. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for your time today. First of all, tell our listeners a little bit about your own Arkansas roots, your connections to our state.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned kind of the new album and everything. So actually, me and my family had moved around a good amount when I was growing up, but we moved to Arkansas when I was like 12, about to turn 13. And so we moved there and we lived there just about 6 years by the time that we moved to Kentucky. So I would say overall, out of any place that I've lived, I would consider Arkansas to be my hometown, if I had to say one was. And so basically throughout our time there, I feel like that's really where I actually grew up, where I found, friends that I would consider family to this day. And so we found in Jonesboro, Arkansas, we found a great church family at Highland Drive. Even fairly quickly after we moved there, just like a few months after we moved there, I think there was a few friends of mine that they actually were a part of a music group, a little band at a local music place, which is Backbeat Music. Shout out to them. But so they were part of a band there. And so I got to be a part of that, which was a lot of fun. But up until that point, I had done just like some piano lessons, things like that. But I think it was once a semester we would actually like write a song together and everything. So just through that experience, just playing music with friends, and that really gave me a greater appreciation for it. And then even through Highland Drive Baptist, I got to be a part of their worship team, their youth praise team. And so just throughout the whole time of the 6 years that I was in Arkansas, it wasn't just like growing in my love for music, but it was also just kind of becoming who I am, definitely learning and growing more in Jesus and everything. So just overall, just kind of really taking me to who I am at this point in my life. So yeah, if I had to call any place my hometown, it would definitely be Jonesboro.
So some very musically formative years that you spent here in Jonesboro. Well, for our listeners that are not familiar with you and your music, kind of describe the style of music that you write and record.
Yeah, so my music is definitely Christian music. I would say overall, if you look at kind of the whole scope of my music, it's mainly pop music, but I would say in style, for me, there's no limits just because I like to have fun with it. So for me, it goes from pop, singer-songwriter. Some stuff has some more electronic. I have a couple that I'm working on right now that are almost not really hip hop, but almost like an acoustic rap type thing. Definitely some worship songs. Basically, as long as the message is really the central thing that stays the same for me. And so basically, as long as the message is what I want to say, which I'll get into that in a second, but as long as the message stays at the core of it, I am not afraid to go anywhere with style. It's kind of whatever inspires me at the second that I write. So, but yeah, overall, the message to me being the most important thing is really just that, like, I love all Christian music pretty much, but one thing that I've noticed is in my personal music, I want to actually step into a space where, like, a lot of Christian music is more on the uplifting side of things, and where it just says that it can come across sometimes, though I think unintentionally, that basically once you follow Jesus, it's like a band-aid on your life, and it fixes everything. Everything feels great after, and so kind of where I want to go in my music, stepping into a space where it's like, yes, I serve a perfect God, and that means in eternity everything will be great. But life isn't always perfect. I'm not perfect yet. And so basically stepping into that balance where it's like I serve a perfect God, but things are unstable somewhat sometimes. And so basically just learning to trust him in the steps that you don't understand, that don't feel solid. And so really in my music style and everything, as long as that message stays at the core where God holds you in every single season, then the style kind of goes wherever I want.
My guest today on Arkansas Roots is Matthew Adams, who grew up here in Jonesboro. His debut album has just been released. It's called Hometown. Now, and talking about your music, particularly in the lyrical content, something that I've noticed is that, yeah, you're a Christian artist, but your music doesn't necessarily fit into what a lot of people think of as praise and worship music. Lyrically, a lot of what you do, from my perspective, it's almost like you're just having this conversation with God in your music, and you're shaking your head. Elaborate on that.
Definitely. So, while I mean, I was actually back in Kentucky. I served as a worship pastor at a local church, and so I love praise and worship music as far as that's concerned. But one thing that God has really gotten my heart into is not just songs for Sunday, but songs for the other 6 days. So basically, songs for when you get bad news from a family member, songs when maybe the day at work hasn't gone all that well, or just personal things in your life aren't as steady. And so basically songs about how, because I mean, I love uplifting music, I love positive music. I try to write that as well. But at the center of my music, I want it to be kind of something people can reach for no matter what kind of day they're having, no matter where they're at in life and what they're experiencing, that even kind of at their lowest point, they can. There's actually one song off of the record called Still Waters. And so I was trying to remember a lyric at the same time, but basically, Still Waters goes into there's this phrase in the chorus where it says, "Will I see beyond this storm? Maybe that's what my faith is for." And so basically, at that point in the song, most of the song is really just kind of complaining and venting about what's happening on a certain day. But then at that point in the song, it literally switches from basically saying sometimes things don't go super well, but then it switches from that to, "Will I see beyond the storm? Maybe that's what my faith is for." So basically taking you from questioning to thoughts of hope. And so basically meeting you where you're at and validating that, but then giving a reason for hope in the future.
Can you relate? I give it to him, but it's stuck in my hands. Like raindrops falling down once again, and nothing but wind and weather for miles and miles. Will I see beyond this storm? Maybe that's what my faith is for. The anxious thoughts flooding in my mind turn to still waters with you. La da 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 da.
A great story behind that song, but I want to ask you kind of in general terms, what's the songwriting process for you like? Do you sit down and say, okay, today in this hour, I'm going to spend it writing a song? Does it have to be kind of a light bulb moment? What's songwriting like for you?
You mentioned the light bulb moment. There's definitely a lot more light bulb moments than there are scheduled times. Because definitely in my process of even learning how to write songs, I would try to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to come up with a song. And there have been sometimes that a song comes through that. But I would say definitely the vast majority of the time, it's more of I'm going about just my everyday, or I get home and just all of a sudden, I don't know. I feel like more often than not, it feels like God just puts a thought in my mind, and it's more like me responding to that thought, kind of. And so I would say definitely the songwriting process isn't as much of like a planning process, although that goes into it, I would say, at the later parts. So the songwriting process for me is more of a light bulb moment that it's just kind of spilling everything out on a notebook paper. And then after that, then kind of refining into it, just what am I getting out of this?
Well, I want to talk with you about some of the specific songs on the new album. And let's start off with the title track, the one called Hometown. Give us the story behind it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier on our call, so me and my parents moved around. I think well, our me and my wife's move to North Carolina counts as our either our seventh or eighth move now. So basically, a lot of my time growing up was spent kind of not really knowing where I come from. Basically, it arose in my life this insecurity of I don't feel like I belong anywhere. I don't know truly who I am sometimes. And so basically, I wanted to write this album, the title track for I wanted to write the song for basically just for me and for anyone who kind of goes through the feeling of just being alone, not really feeling like you belong. Because what I realized, I feel like over the last year and a half, God has really been teaching me that no matter where I am, what I'm doing, what I feel like I am, what other people say about me, that He is my hometown. He's the place where I get my identity, my true name, and that Him alone. That's where I find my identity. And so basically, yeah, through the title track "Hometown," but also I feel like what I tried to do, this is kind of the planning process of songwriting, was I wanted the rest of the album to kind of reflect the fact that it doesn't matter where your roots in life are as long as your true roots are in God. And so that's really where it comes from.
My old town's in the rear view looking distant, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss it. Like there's a hole in my heart. Yeah, I know I could have spent my days reminiscing, but I found my place somewhere different, right here in your arms. I got a new name, you did the trade. God, you made me part of the family. I guess I can't say I never played for the home team. And 'cause I was born and raised to know always that there's a God who loves my soul. That's out of place, but on the way I learned that wherever I go, I'm right at home. But still I kept asking why, like all the time. I was sure God had to be tired of me. Took a few state lines to realize that I was right where I needed to be. Now I'm right at home. Jesus, you are my hometown. You're my hometown. You're my hometown. My hometown. You're my hometown. You're my hometown. My hometown.
We're listening to music from the new album Hometown by Matthew Adams, who now makes his home over in Charlotte, North Carolina, but he spent his teenage years growing up here in Jonesboro. Well, Matthew, another song I want to ask you about from the album is the one called Sometimes. Tell us about that one.
Definitely. So this one, actually, I won't go into super specifics on the actual story that it came from, but basically, in my job at the time, there was something that had happened that it seemed kind of an opportunity that arose in the job that seemed really awesome, almost too good to be true in some ways. And so I was really excited about it. And then, kind of as events unfolded a little bit, basically some things happened that it turned out that it wasn't actually the best opportunity. And I remember the day that I got home from my job, I just went to my room, picked up a guitar, and I literally just started singing verse 1 of it, which says, sometimes life doesn't go quite how we'd like it to. Opportunities go bad the moment you think it's going your way, but you don't stop to think to pray, so it all just falls to pieces. And so basically just kind of complaining a little. But then this is honestly how my songwriting goes a lot of times is I'll start in one place writing in a verse, and then as I get through the chorus, it is kind of like a conversation with God where it's like I'm writing one thing and then I realize, this is what's true. And so I was writing that sometimes life is unpredictable, but by the end of the chorus, it says, but your grace doesn't only come through sometimes. And so basically what that means to me is the fact that sometimes life doesn't go how you want. Sometimes conversations kind of don't go the right way. Sometimes your mood might be good. Sometimes it might be bad, stuff like that. But the one predictable thing is Jesus. And I mean that in the best way because he's the one thing that you can count to come through for you in every single season. He's the one steady thing that you can always rely on.
Sometimes life doesn't go quite how we'd like it to. And opportunities go bad the moment you think it's going your way. You don't stop to think to pray, and it all just falls to pieces. And sometimes you kind of wonder if God's even on your side, 'cause you keep losing count of the days that ended. Why did it end up this way? I need some help if I'm supposed to say, Lord, you are the one thing I can count on, to only build my life on. Oh, it's not a thing on earth that I could find, 'cause it all amounts to nothing, and my shortcuts end up crumbling. Oh, it all falls apart if it's mine, but your grace doesn't only come through sometimes.
Well, another song from the album that I'm curious about is the one called Better Me. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so Better Me. One thing that I feel like I talk about in multiple songs is my struggle with insecurity in my life. And I do talk about that a little bit in Hometown, just kind of trying to find my identity, find a feeling of belonging. But really, what Better Me does is it almost takes this therapeutic turn in a way where I basically write a letter to this better idealistic version of myself. And so I address specific kind of worries or insecurities about myself. So like basically my ability to speak or be understood, or even just when I'm recording like a new song or whatever, I'll be the one to, which is a good thing sometimes, but to be able to like pick out here's the wrong note, or here's the thing where that didn't work out how I wanted. And so I'm always kind of my own worst critic. But basically what I realized over the course of writing Better Me is that basically if I could attain this idea of better me, it wouldn't necessarily be good for me, because what God was teaching me through the writing of this is not just that it was kind of good for me to get it out. And that's how it started, was just getting it out on paper, just kind of writing a letter to better me. But basically God was teaching me that this better me, this ideal me, was actually becoming an idol for me. And so what he was showing me is that almost writing a letter to that version of myself that I had made up in my head, almost saying, I don't have a need of you anymore, because, I get my identity from God. And it doesn't mean I don't hope to get better and improve, but it means that I really, I want to find my identity in the right place, not in idolizing this perfect version, if I could make it there, of myself. So Better Me is almost like a breakup letter to that version of myself. So yeah.
I'm pretty jealous of you, the perfect things that you do, the way you keep singing in tune, you make it look easy, the articulate way that you speak, you're a million miles shy of weak, the way that your smile never leaves, you make it look easy. I know it seems unrealistic, but in my head, boy, you've made it, and since I haven't, I hate it. Oh, better me, better me, better me, better me is always up ahead of me, ahead of me, ahead of me, ahead of me. Cause I make up standards way too high to reach a mountain, but I can't help but hold on to better me, better me, better me, better me. I'm still waiting for you.
We're listening to music from the new album Hometown by Matthew Adams, who calls Jonesboro his hometown. He spent his teenage years here, currently lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Matthew, there's one more song I want to ask you about from the album. Tell us about the one called Front.
So Front, there's actually, I think, 3 or 4 different songs that were released before the album. Front, I would say overall, is probably one of the most special to me, one of my favorites, because it addresses the fact that I'm the sort of person who tries to put my best foot forward. I always have this thought in my mind where it's like, I want people to like me. I want to be the sort of person that people like to be around. And so putting your best foot forward, I mean, that's not a bad thing always, but it is whenever it seeps into your prayer life. And so what I realized is I was trying to pray like this person that had it all together. But I remember this verse right around the time that I wrote Front, that says, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And so basically, whenever I would try to act like this person who has it all together, whenever I pray to God, like, oh, I'm fine, I'm not really struggling, I'm not going through anything, I can kind of make it on my own. But I would like pray for other people, like they're the ones who need you. But what I realized I was doing is basically trying to put on a mask around the person that knows me better than anyone. So this song is about the realization. There's actually right before the pre-chorus every time in the verse, it always says 3, 2, 1, I'm found. And so basically that's not for God. That's not like he has to find you, but it's almost like for yourself to realize, okay, 3, 2, 1, I'm found. He sees every single thing in my life. And so basically it's just the realization that not in the scary, he's going to get you type of way, but just the fact that God sees you completely holy who you are. And he doesn't say, oh, I'm disappointed in you. He says, I want to heal you. I want to help you get better. I want to fix you. And I want to bring you into my family. And so that for me is what Front means, is just the fact that, I'm giving up the perfectionistic way of living or trying to the best of my ability. And just understanding that Jesus does see me exactly how I am. And he loves me that way, and he wants to bring me into his family and kind of make me new in that way. And so that's what Front is.
Thought I had it all together. Maybe I just found the lie that I've been buying selfishly, thinking I'm unique. But we're all just like a sweater. Pull a string and then we all unravel, falling at your feet. Feet to one I'm found, yeah. All of the truth of who I really am, completely unfolding inside of your hands. And God, what do you see in me? 'Cause I can't hide who I am when I'm with you. You see past all my walls like I'm see-through. No matter how many miles I've walked away, I'm more than a name to you. When I'm lost and I'm lonely, you remind me again that you see me. No matter how many times I put up a front, God, you never fed up, you never stop wanting me. Never stop wanting me. I'm more than a name to you. When I'm lost and I'm lonely, you remind me again that you see me. No matter how many times I put up a front, God, you never fed up, you never stop wanting me.
Well, and listening to your songs and now hearing you talk about them, a lot of the content lyrically, you're kind of talking about things that you struggle with, your own personal emotions. And you know what? That's what virtually every singer-songwriter does. They talk about the things that they're dealing with in their own lives, but you're doing that from your own Christian perspective, from the fact that you do have a relationship with God, and you interject that into all of your music.
Definitely. Yeah. So I know, like you said, a lot of singer-songwriters kind of deal with the more emotional side of things, but the way that I see it, like literally, I mean, emotions were given by God. And so to me, the only way to really flesh them out when I have a lot of them is through talking to God, through maybe if he gives me an idea of something, just like whether it comes from scripture or just comes from a thought that I start writing a song to. That's how a lot of the songs come about, is just by literally sitting with it, trying to think things through, praying, and just trying to let him sort through my emotions, my story, just everything I go through.
Well, just a couple more questions for you, Matthew. One of which is that this is a self-produced album. You did this all entirely on your own. Talk to us a little bit about the recording process, what it's like to put something like this together and then be able to share it with people.
Yes. So a lot of times I wrestle with what I like better, the songwriting process or the production, because they're both so much fun for me. Just my passion has always been just to see the initial spark of a song and then see what it turns into by the end of it. And so the songwriting process and just production of the song as a whole, usually they go hand in hand. Sometimes I'll have actually some songs that I'm currently working on. I have only a verse one, a pre-chorus, and a chorus to it, and I'm already starting to produce it. And then usually maybe like a verse two or a bridge might come after some of it is recorded. And so usually, I know I've heard people talk about how songwriting usually works best if you write the song and then you produce it, or if you have kind of a beat and then you write to it. For me, it almost goes hand in hand, or else it almost doesn't happen at all. So basically, I have to have both the lyrics and the musicality of it both be inspiring to me at the same time to really go for it. And so basically, through the production process of it, I do self-record, self-produce. I have worked kind of co-writing with some other artists before as well, but so far what I've released is just solo. But basically, yeah, it usually starts out just kind of writing on my acoustic guitar, but then it very quickly goes into just mapping out all the instruments, how I want the beats to end up being, and just where I want it to go musically.
You've completed the album now, and so now the point is, okay, sharing your music with the rest of the world. What are some of your goals now, having completed this first full-length album? What would you like to see happen in your future as a result of this music being shared with people?
So as a result, I definitely have the goal of just each song on the album and each song I'm going to release. I just have a goal for it for each person that hears it, just for them to relate to it, for them to, I know I talked about before, kind of with worship songs. I know they're usually meant for like where they're played in church on Sunday, but my goal for my songs is for them to be kind of the songs that you fight through life with the rest of the week. And so just to see people use them in their personal life in that way. But then even more so from that, I do have, I think, four other songs right now that I'm fairly quickly, not sure how quick after the album I want to release, but I have some other ones coming down the pike, another EP planned. And so basically just continuing releasing. And then there are also some places I'm kind of looking at in North Carolina that may be good for like leading worship, doing shows at, things like that.
Well, my last question for you then, Matthew, is if someone out there has been engaged by our conversation and by your music, where can they learn more about you and where can they find your music?
Definitely. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and then also on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. So actually, my Instagram, let me look that up right quick. So it's at Matthew Adams, all one word, at Matthew Adams underscore music. And you can find pretty much links to anything I've done right there.
Matthew Adams, I grew up here in Jonesboro. His brand new album is called Hometown. Matthew, thanks so much for taking some time to visit with me today, and I wish you all the best as you promote your new music.
Thank you so much, Marty. I had a great time.